Hey there everybody, I'm Nairyn.cos, and today I wanted to do a video on things I wish I knew when I started cosplaying. I've been cosplaying for about 11 years almost, and it feels like I'm still very new in a lot of different ways. But today I wanted to give some advice that I wish I'd gotten when I was younger, some mentalities that I wish I'd changed or challenged sooner, and just things in general that I think would be helpful to talk about. A lot of these kind of intertwine with each other, so I'm going to try and be as concise as I can be, but if this video is a bit ranty or like chaotic, then know that I've thought very hard about these things, but I don't know if I'm gonna like translate them well in videos. The first thing that I wish I'd like done sooner is use the free available resources that there are a lot more. There's a lot of information out there, the internet is very vast and big and it can be very overwhelming, but I'm at a point where I've kind of figured out what kind of resources work for me and which ones don't. But there's a lot of different ways that you can learn new things, and I think that applies to not just cosplay but just any kind of skill in general. There's a tutorial for everything nowadays, and I remember when I started cosplaying, like a lot of the older cosplayers would say things like, oh, cosplayers nowadays have it so easy and there's so much free information available, why aren't they using it? And now that I am older, I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of agree, but also trying to go back into my mind as a 14-year-old who just also wanted to figure stuff out on her own. I want to make this point in the least condescending way as possible because I remember being kind of frustrated with that beginner cosplayers have it so easy nowadays, because it is very intimidating when you start learning how to sew or craft or do these things, because although there is a lot of information, which is good, that information can also be information overload and get very overwhelming and very exhausting to try and filter through all the information to find the specific thing that you need. So here's some of the resources that I really like using, and I hope that's helpful. The first thing is sewing patterns. You can buy them in packets like this. There's regular fashion ones nowadays, there's also more like cosplay related. I have this school uniform pattern that I've used for my Homura sailor outfit that I'm wearing this weekend for VeeCon. My Nan also gets these sewing patterns from a magazine that she gives my sister and I to use, and that's been really nice. There's also online free patterns that you can print out and just use. There's video tutorials that help with having a visual aid and seeing how the steps are done, because when I started using these were just shapes and things that I had to attach together, and I would end up sewing the wrong things together and getting frustrated and confusing. So although I think it's a great resource, I also get that just having a pattern and not knowing what to do besides that is still kind of difficult. So there's video tutorials, there's complete written blogs on a lot of things. Pinterest, although it's filled with Pinterest mums who have like their whole life story before you get to the actual guide and information that you need, they do have helpful information. It can be quite useful. I've also started to figure out that you can source information from things that aren't associated with cosplay at all. I really like watching miniature painting videos. The painting techniques used there are used to create something like a Warhammer figurine, which is a character with shading and really cool details, and a lot more small scale than a full armor thing that you have to wear. So seeing dry brushing and those kind of techniques applied to something very small scale is really nice to try it out that way and then apply it to a costume. Every single crafting community has their own kind of hacks and cheats for getting the desired result that they want. So sourcing different hobbies to learn the things that you might want to apply to your costumes is a really great resource. A really great resource is convention lectures and workshops. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay an entrance fee. Usually for workshops where you have to use a supply, there might be a small fee, but it's a really great way to start and just kind of have someone there to guide you Maybe your local community has some sort of club where you can learn how to sew or craft or do something similar. It really depends on how you like to learn to figure out what learning method works best for you, but I think knowing all the different types of resources that are available is a very important first step. And I wish I'd figured that out sooner, because I've spent a lot of time being frustrated behind a sewing machine because I didn't know how to get the end result that I wanted, and I didn't know how to look for the information that I needed. So learning that is honestly kind of crucial if you want to start making things for costuming. The next piece of advice that I wish I'd kind of figured out sooner is it's really easy to get stuck in comparing yourself to others without learning from them. The thing that artists do is called a master study, where you look at a professional, a master of the arts, analyze how they decided to get to their style, what techniques they used, and analyze every single aspect and then apply that to your own work. And I think you can do that for costuming as well. I've kind of curated my Instagram feed to have a lot of cosplayers that inspire me. I like taking inspiration from cosplay photographers. I have a Pinterest board for like posing references, photo shoot references, like to get more ideas so I can get a better end result. I really like doing photo shoots for costumes, so I've realized that by analyzing how other people take their photos, I can better figure out how to get the photos that I want, and also how to communicate that to the photographer or the people helping me to get the photos that I want. And I myself have really struggled with comparing myself to cosplayers who do cosplay as a job and not just as a hobby, who have much more time to spend on making costumes, doing photo shoots, going to really cool locations. People have a much higher budget than I do. It's really easy to see someone do this really cool photo shoot and be like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I don't have the money for that, I don't have the time right now, and then just kind of get stuck in that envy and get very frustrated. When I was younger, I would like finish a costume, not be happy with it, and then see other people doing much better and just kind of like fall back and not enjoy the hobby as much. And I think that's a shame. I think this isn't some mentality that you just switch on and it's all easy and wow, now everything is better. But I think it's an important reminder to get. Everyone starts somewhere, which you've probably heard 100 times, but I'm gonna say it again. And growing doesn't happen within a week. It's something that's very gradual, and especially if you're not taking the time to figure out what aspect of your costume you're not happy with, it's really difficult to do anything about it. And then also, if you're stuck being frustrated about something you can't control, you're not going to get anywhere. Whereas if there are elements that you can control and you can improve and you can do something about, I would focus on those rather than be stuck in your frustration. Another thing that I wish I would have done sooner is I wish I had prioritized comfort a lot sooner. There's kind of two aspects of this. I wish one of the things that I used to do is bring way too many costumes to a convention. You have to imagine that a convention day is about 8 to 12 hours, which is a lot of time, but that doesn't mean you need to fill in every single hour slot with a photo shoot or something else. There's other things to do at conventions, and something that I kind of got stuck in is bringing like 5 or 7 costumes for a single day, changing and constantly rushing to get to like the group or the photographer, or just constantly rushing to get photos done so I could move on to the next one. And I'd end up doing nothing but taking photos, and I didn't see a lot of my friends because they were doing other things. And it's just such a shame to miss out on the convention itself for photos when you could also plan in separate photo shoots and do that at a comfortable pace. If I take the time to plan maximum 3 photo shoots in a day, I know that I can take the time to get the photos that I want and get an end result that I'm going to be happy with. Whereas if I'm constantly rushing, then you end up with kind of like the same few poses in certain angles, and you have maybe 3 photos that you're happy with, and that's about it, which is a bit of a shame. But then another aspect of the comfort is costumes that are irritating to wear and having to wear them for a really long time. One example where it got really bad for me is I had my Cure Blossom cosplay and the shoes for it were so uncomfortable that I couldn't walk after only an hour of wearing the shoes. I had planned like several other costumes to wear, but because my feet hurt so badly from just wearing this pair of shoes for an hour, I had to change into normal clothes and just spend the rest of the day like that because I was exhausted and it wasn't even 11 o'clock. And that's just such a shame because I could have worn comfortable shoes and maybe just at least worn another more comfortable costume later in the day, but I didn't have that kind of pre-planning and I didn't anticipate it being that bad. I ended up missing out because what I notice is when I'm uncomfortable or hungry, I get kind of cranky, which makes me not a fun person to be around, and also I don't feel good about myself when I'm cranky, so it does kind of sour the mood for everyone, which is a shame. Another piece of advice that I would like to give is have an emergency kit specifically for your costume. Yes, there are like emergency repair stalls at conventions mostly nowadays, but you never know, maybe the convention doesn't have one, or it's way too far away, or they don't have the specific thing you need to fix your problem. So analyze what you actually need or what could potentially break or would need to be fixed, so that you know that if it does break, if something does need to be fixed, you can do it like that and it will be less of a worry. I also think it's really good to try out your costume before wearing it for a full day at a convention. See if you like the fit, if there's anything you want to adjust. I've definitely left that to the last minute for myself, especially with like makeup. I noticed that in the mornings right before a convention, if I hadn't figured out what I want to do with the makeup, I get kind of stressed and I start making mistakes more. So I'd spend a lot of time on the eyeshadow and be very happy with it, and then start on the eyeliner and ooh, fucked up the eyeliner, I can start all over again, which just isn't fun. My final piece of advice, and something that I had to really learn slowly because I'm a bit afraid of confrontation, is your boundaries are valid and you don't need to justify them. You've probably heard the phrase cosplay is not consent, and cosplay conventions are getting a lot better at recognizing when boundaries are being crossed. It still sometimes feels like the boundaries have to be justifiable, and not everyone agrees on what is a respectable boundary or not. When in reality, if you have a boundary, people are just going to have to respect that, and you are allowed to defend yourself on this. Maybe you're doing a photo shoot with a photographer and they want you to do a certain pose, maybe like a very cutesy pose. You don't feel that that pose is flattering, or it's just something you're not comfortable with. Saying no is absolutely fine, and the photographer's just going to have to respect that. If they can't, then that's their problem. Same with, maybe you're doing a photo shoot with a cosplayer and they really want to do like shippy photos, but maybe it's as simple as you don't like the ship and you don't want to do it because of that. That's valid, that's fine. That's again, maybe a bit disappointing for the other cosplayer, but that shouldn't mean that they get to push you into doing something you're not comfortable with. But also, maybe there's someone who would like to photograph you and you're just not in the mood, or you need to go to the toilet, or whatever. There is no reason that isn't valid in that situation. You are allowed to say no in any situation. I think because a lot of cosplayers are nerdier, shyer types, it's very common for us to try and avoid conflict and try and accommodate everyone, and with that you run the risk of not respecting your own boundaries. And I just want to say that it's okay to not want to do things even if everyone else is doing it. That doesn't mean that you have to. I've gotten quite comfortable with saying no, and it can be as simple as I'm tired and I just want to hang out and I don't want to take photos right now. It can really help if you're afraid of this kind of conflict to be around someone who is more outspoken. Try and always have a friend with you anyways at a convention. It's just a lot safer that way. Most of the time your brain's going to tell you all these horrible scenarios that could happen from saying no, when in reality most people will respect that you don't want to do something. They might scoff or be annoying, but really they can't make you do something you don't want to do. And that was the advice that I have for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope it was helpful in some kind of way. If you have anything that you think, oh, I wish I knew this when I started cosplaying, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. And that was the final video of August. I'm gonna go back to uploading once a month because school's starting and it's gonna get busy. Hope you enjoyed this video, hope you enjoyed the weekly uploads for a short period, and I'll see you next month. Bye!